everyone, and welcome to another episode of Better Life Project TV, the place to be to make your awesome business and life happen. Today, I'm so excited to welcome a very, very special and very unique woman to the show. My guest, Melissa Curry, launched her first jewellery design brand in Paris Fashion Week in 1999, and since then has had some highs and some lows, which inspired her to create a very, very incredible and beautiful brand today, Be Your Own Success. Her success bar has taken the world by storm and has seen collaborations with Richard Branson on Virgin Atlantic and has gifted these incredible success bars to the likes of Michelle Obama and her children. I am so incredibly excited to hear from Melissa about her journey as a jewellery designer, about her highs and her lows, and how she has rediscovered her success, her beauty, her self-belief, and her confidence. Let's give a massive virtual round of applause to my wonderful guest, Melissa Curry. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Well, it's my pleasure, my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
I have been wearing your bracelet that my friends gifted me for my 30th birthday, and it's the small pendant that says success on it. And every time I wear that, I am reminded that I define the sort of success that I aspire to, and that I need to work for it every day. And for me, it's so powerful looking down at my hand every day and being reminded of that. So as the creator behind that, thank you very, very much.
Wow, it's wonderful to hear that that you've connected with the idea, the message, and it's always a pleasure to see it and to feel it. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you've done, what the business is?
Well, I suppose first and foremost I design. So that and being a mother, of course. So I'm between the two all the time.
Two big jobs.
Two very big jobs. I started out as a designer. I started out when I was about 19, 20. I went to college in Paris and I studied visual communication, and I really, I was still agitated. I still didn't know where it was going to all fit, but I worked during my time in Paris and during my studies at a jewellery store, but a very beautiful, very bespoke place. And little did I know that was going to connect me to my dream, and that would be what I would develop in my life. I always dreamed of doing something that was creative, and I always wanted to communicate through that. So little by little, my life unfolded, and in college there was lots of different opportunities that came my way, and one door after the next just opened up this other world, which became my world. So from the age of 26, after lots of travelling and lots of experimenting, I settled down and I built my own first brand called Melissa C. And I was incredibly naive to think, here was I was going to make it and go out with a bit and be successful very quickly. And I had no idea how terribly tough the industry would be. But I pursued, and I launched my first brand in Paris at Paris Fashion Week in 1998.
Oh my goodness, the fact that you just said I launched my first brand at Paris Fashion Week. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. It all seems incredible, but it just happened. I was there. I had to make a move. Everybody was looking at me going, is she going to do something with her creativity? I had spent a lot of time travelling, so I had gathered a lot of information, and I was very inspired at the time. So just one thing led to the next, and the people who I had become friendly with, they gave me the opportunity and they opened the door. And there I was in the middle of Paris Fashion Week. And it really it started from there. I was incredibly naive. I certainly hadn't got the business structure that is needed. I had very little backing. I had the belief of a lot of people, and I had the support, but I had no idea how you build a global brand. But that's what I wanted. I went after it. And I was taken on very quickly by the Liberty of London. They picked me up.
Okay.
And within a couple of weeks, I was in their office in London. I thought this was just a natural. It was progressive. I thought it was what everybody got to do. And they were developing their Millennium campaign, which was this global advertising campaign for themselves. And they asked me, would I be their jewellery designer? So it really started from there. I had no idea what that meant. I was incredibly privileged and very honoured, but I had no idea what that would do to my career, and effectively it had a huge impact.
Wow. Has it always been jewellery that was your tool or your platform to express that creativity, or was there always little bits and pieces?
Always little bits and pieces.
Okay.
It keeps me busy. It
Yeah.
keeps me informed. It keeps my mind going, and it keeps me connected to people.
Yeah.
So I would work with film. I would work with. I did a lot of styling at the time. I was always interested in people, and I have a huge humanitarian side to me, which was something that I grew up with, and my father very much informed that part of me.
So you do a lot of work with the Kingsley?
Kasani.
Institute, which works with young girls in Africa, isn't it?
That's right. Women are amazing people and so inspirational. So I suppose due to the fact that I travelled a lot in Africa and Asia back in the 90s, the early 90s, and this is before even China really opened up. You see, there was just a very different world then. So I was very much informed by tribal and the accessories and how how strong and how meaningful they are in everyday life. So it really it was a great language. So little by little, and it was through colleagues in school. They were like, Melissa, you're all so into detail. Really think about going into jewellery. Think about it, because they really thought that was where I was going to be most successful. And effectively, that's what I suppose the main part of my work is, building and informing pieces of jewellery, which can be personal, very, very personal, or they can be a wow, or they can be, I can work with any size or any story.
So when you were living in London, where did your life take you then? You were designing jewellery for a very big brand, a very big project. Where did your life take you then? What happened next?
It catapulted us all over the world very quickly. I had no idea that it would do that, and even though I was very active, you sleep very little because you're young, you're in the limelight, and you're working with a lot of creatives. Press starts coming. You have to start negotiating all these different areas of your work that you really didn't think it through. Big stores were the next stop. So very soon after Liberty, it became Le Bon Marché. It became a lot of the big stores in the US, Japan. It was a very interesting, very, very exciting time. It was very fast. Very exciting.
At what stage in that journey did you then become a mum? When did that new job or that new role come into play?
Right. Well, that was again. I don't think that was planned either. It was not something that I adore children, and but I was really at the height of my career, and I had to travel a lot at the time. But in 2002, a little boy joined my world, and it was a very joyful time, but a very different role. And I suppose at that time, I thought I could do it all. I thought I could work and continue on as I had done and build, and this little boy and this little person would be a part of that. But in fact, he became incredibly ill. So life started to change, and the life that I knew and the life that I really had a dialogue with very much shifted. And my concentration, I think that he needed me, and he brought me on a completely different journey. So that journey has, I suppose, very much inspired my new collection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about the new collection.
Well, it's been a journey and it's been a process. Going back to that time, I think I had to take that decision. I had to make a decision that I was a single mom, and life had really, really changed. And due to his illness, I had to make a decision that my career had to go on hold. So all my energies and my focus shifted, and it was very much about him. So little by little, everything that you know, it disappears. And once you make that decision, it's a very healthy decision, because you know you can't possibly do the two, especially being one person. Economically, it became very difficult, and life as I knew it in Paris, it was over. We tried a number of different places. I went to South Africa. I went everywhere. I wanted to surround myself with creatives and industry, because that for me was very, very important. Ireland didn't have an industry.
Okay.
However, in 2004, Keto's health really disintegrated, and I came home. And it was at that time I knew that really Melissa's scene was over, and this little boy needed my full attention. So we went on that journey, and it was a very tough journey. I learned so much, which I'm very grateful for. I observed life from a very different place, and I met very different people. And it was a time where my own confidence and my own conflict was very much in play. I had my dreams, I had my goals, I had my visions, but they were unattainable at the time, because the demands and the needs of my son were just they were just, they were very much more at the fore. And I was surrounded by so many women similar to me. We struggled with our confidence, we struggled with our self-belief. We were in a different dialogue. Life was so different. I was so far from the limelight. I was so far from everything that was true to me. I had a very different role, and I had to learn to be that carer. I had to learn to be the mom, the friend, nearly the man. I had to learn to do all these different things, and get him well. That was really the goal. So through this time, I suppose I was really inspired by the women around me, their need of confidence, their need of self-belief, my own need of self-belief, and something that really struck me at the time was that our strength, it's our inner strength that really connects us all. And it's with that inner strength you can take that step to imagining what you want, and believing and achieving and getting to where you need to go in you. And it's really embracing that inner power and your inner you. So I think my bar, which has become success, we're here. Yes, I have a little. I wear my little bar.
Yeah.
That's where it was very much formed from that time. There's lots of layers and there's lots of different meanings behind it, but ultimately it's about embracing your spirit, embracing your self-belief as a person, and bringing that forth, and imagining your dream. And it's so important to believe in your dream. It's our tool. The greatest tool we have as people is to imagine, and using our imagination. And with the power of your imagination, and if you believe in you, and you believe in what you want, you will achieve it. And it's just really about believing in it and holding on to that dream. For 14 years, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Every time I made a step, I had to do 2 steps back, if not more. It was a very, very challenging time. I had a lot of self-doubt. My world was so far away. I lost myself. And I just kept on imagining, no, I'm going to get back there. But I was going to go back in a very different way, obviously. So the first part for me was I continued Melissa Curry, the more flamboyant side of me, very gently, and I worked in a very slow way, and I started to imagine a different world. I started to imagine something that could encourage us, and with the gift of encouragement and with the gift of support, I felt that we could really, really help each other out and really define a different world as girls, as women, as people. So I built the bar, yes, for women and girls, but really for people. And Be Your Own Success was informed by that process, and it was built for people. And it was to remind them that everything is possible, and that your own power, your own strength, and your own connection, and your imagination, and your belief, you will achieve everything you need to achieve and everything you want to achieve. So that's really the formation, and the little bar is the spearhead to Be Your Own Success.
Yeah, you've given me goosebumps everywhere. Whenever I work with my clients, particularly women, I always encourage them to examine their belief system and what they believe to be true about the world that they live in. And once they have an understanding of that, how can they recreate or rebuild that world to inspire them to be successful, to inspire them to love themselves, take care of themselves, and to treat themselves with love and kindness. And one of the very practical roads that I take with these women is to surround themselves with affirmations and reminders of their worth, of their value, and of what they can do. And I think as women, we are very blessed to have brilliant designers like you who can create those reminders, I call them triggers, to help us to think about our world a little bit differently. I believe we all have this mean girl voice in our head that can sometimes get very, very loud. And unless we have something in the world to say, hang on a second, love, there's a different way for you to do things, there's a different way to think about things, and there's a different way to be. And when you can carry that reminder around with you, I really believe that we can be unstoppable. And it is so inspiring that you used your own journey to create something that's helping hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, so many women and men. I think it's incredible.
Well, you're being really generous. Thank you very much. I think it can only come from, if something has come from inside, you have to share it. And you can help, and you can support, and you can encourage with it. There's a big part of me that through my own journey has influenced my authenticity. And the authentic part of self is just so important. It helps everything along the way. We're constantly bombarded with words. Yes, that mean voice, of course, I live with it myself. It's always there tapping you. I think Dove, they had an amazing campaign. Do you remember Dove's campaign?
Dove has actually inspired a lot of work I do with young girls around body confidence. So
wow,
their work is incredible.
It is, it really is. You remember they had a great campaign built in France, in Paris, and they had dialogues. It was very interesting. But yes, we do have that mean inner voice, and also we tend to share it more than we think we do. And I think being a girl, we've gone through lots of different parts in our history and our evolution, which is extraordinary. But most importantly now, it's about being us and embracing it, and embracing our vulnerable areas, embracing our strengths, our beauty from the inside out. And the inside is just as important as the outside. And I guess that's what I, like you, that's what I was so inspired to do, and build those reminders and make sure that girls, and men of course, but girls in particular, that they must be kind, they must be generous, and they must care for themselves and others around them. And with that, I know it sounds really simple, but it's true. It makes such a difference.
It does.
To people's lives. It really does.
And it's those simple messages that are the most beautiful, that are the most impactful, because they're easy to digest and they're easy to make happen and to turn into action.
Absolutely. It really is. I was at a parent-teacher meeting recently for my son, and his teacher was amazed at the progress my son had made over the 7 or 8 months they were in school. And he said it was the small things that made a difference in his life. And it was fascinating to see those little tiny shifts that made those big shifts happen. And it brought me back to the simplicity and those tiny little shifts that we must make in ourselves. And it brought me back also to the steps and the routing system that I've developed within the jewellery, that within Be Your Own Success, because yes, I had imagined a different world. I had imagined a much greater world with I suppose, more compassion and a lot more, just a better place, really, for girls in particular, because we give ourselves so much, I suppose, such a hard time, and we're just influenced by media at such a pace. So it's the young girls, it's also my age group, it's all of us. We all carry self-doubt somewhere. So I guess the little bar is also about that, and when we gift it, it's to remind that I am rooting for you, and it's to pay it forward. And I think that's just, if we can do that more often, I think we have an amazing way, or certainly an amazing starting point of making things happen for us.
What advice would you give to a woman on a similar journey to you, or embarking on a similar path?
Well, I think we all have journeys. I think as a woman, as a young girl starting out in her life, as a woman going back to work like me, as a young person making a change in their career, I think your imagination is your greatest tool. And believing and being, believing in what you really want is absolutely fundamental. And once you make that choice, it's working on it every single day. We know all this, but it's also very important to know that there's a community out there that are going to support you, because making that first step is terrifying. I was terrified. I didn't even own the bar when I brought it out first. Okay. I couldn't. I had no confidence. I had built it for everybody except me. Okay. And it was really interesting. It took me a while to take it forward and to understand that it actually was a part of me. I had built it for others, but it came from me and my own lack of confidence, my own lack of self-belief. And I think when I did that, I could share it and I could explain it, and now I am. So thanks for it. It's wonderful being here, because I'm much more at ease with it, and now I can bring it and share it into the bigger world. But it fundamentally is connecting with the vision, what is going to make you happy at the end of the day, and to define it, and stepping out into the world and making that first step, and taking and knowing that you have the strength to do it, knowing that you will do it, and with that self-belief you can get there.
Tell me about how you became one with what you were doing, and how you were able to connect with it at a personal level that empowered you to share it with the world more openly, maybe.
Sure. It has been a process. Believe me, it has been a long process. My journey really changed about 14 years ago. So getting my son well was the first, and embarking on the new me has been a process. And I did build a bar for other women like me, and the word success came after. But the bar was in me, and it was a vision that I had for a very long time. So it was a part of my imagination, and it took a whole 18 months to even just get it physically right, because it had to be engineered. So the actual piece nearly had its own journey, as I did. And once I started to understand that people actually enjoyed it, once they understand that it was personal to them, it was emotional, it connected them, and it made them feel better. And they really resonated with the story, and they resonated with what it meant. I think little by little, the pennies started to drop that you've made something with purpose, and you've made something that is different, but you've made something that is authentic, and it is your place to share it and bring it further. I guess also I was a part of a wonderful pop-up store in London with my other range about 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and I met this very beautiful woman who had another stand with these exquisite linen accessories, and it was very beautiful. And I ventured over, and I saw they had this table book, another exquisite piece of work, and I opened it up, and it was the Kasani Living Linens. It was a project in East Africa, and it was a project that helped and inspired women to reach economic independence. And I was amused, and I was nearly surprised that actually I had met something so familiar and something so similar, and the dialogue just fitted. Everything fitted with me, but I couldn't say that because I certainly didn't seem to somebody on the outside that I was actually torn inside. I had as much doubt in myself as I suppose I had huge self-doubt. Yeah, huge. And but I was carrying my little bar, and I was sharing my little bar, and we were discussing it, and when I saw these women, I said, I've got to work with you. I really want to work with you. Your story and my story are so similar. And when I opened the first page of that book, and their eyes were full of, they were nearly empty. And they had been, goodness knows what has happened to these women. It was scary at the very thought. But by the end of the book, you had women who had dignity. You had women who were settled. You were women who could actually smile and laugh. And in the physical world, you had women who had actually shelter. And they had their own homes. They had a job to go to every day. And they gave support and education to their children. And this was Kasani. And I looked at this woman and I said, you've got to put me in touch with the head of Kasani. Of course, I was nothing. And these guys work with big organisations. But because of my own personal story and the familiarity of it to them, the CEO or the head of it, a wonderful woman called Nicole Elson, she immediately connected with my story and said, absolutely, we'll do something together. And we started to build something around the bar. And I think I gently unfolded it in Dublin, but with the kindness of another woman in my business arena, she said, you've got to speak to Virgin. I adore what you're doing. I'm wearing it. It's magnificent. Please speak to Virgin. They're going to love you. So I picked up the phone and I connected with the head of innovation, and I told her about the story, and I showed her what we were doing with Kasani, because they have ethics and they have they like projects and CSR. They have their own take on CSR. And it's very important to their brand also. So when I showed them what I was doing, they said, we want that on board. Got to get that on board. Okay. And I suppose, again, going back to your question, it's all these little milestones, all these little opportunities that really resonate with you, and they bring home that your idea or your goal is actually feasible, and it means something. So then I went on to creating the Little O, which is about embracing opportunity. Yeah.
Which is going to be next on my shopping list.
The Little O. The Little O, and it's got a tiny little diamond, which is about your inner sparkle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sparkle is one of my favourite words.
Really?
I think there's a really valuable lesson in your journey as well about patience and perseverance. Mm-hmm. And I think we live in a world where a lot of people obsess over short term. Everyone wants something now.
Yeah.
Instant gratification, results now. And I think when it comes to creating greatness, not enough people teach us about the value of patience and perseverance, and sometimes our priorities in life are 100% going to shift and change, but that doesn't mean that we need to let go, and I don't think that you let go.
You can't.
No, I don't.
No, you can't. You can't, but we can't.
Yeah.
It's very sad when I see women, for all sorts of reasons, lose themselves. But I understand that I have done also, and I try and remind them that it's not lost at all, that their inner sparkle is there and they have that strength, and if they just to take some time out for themselves, that you know, take that space and take that moment and just to connect with themselves and to believe that they can do it. Of course they can. If I've done it, anybody can do it. If the women, when I look at the women in Kasani, with the support they have gathered, because they believed that they could overcome all their hurdles, which, I mean, were much more immense than mine, or people I know, but they did it. And then they attracted all this support from the outside world. And who would have thought these 8 Congolese women could have attracted the support? And that's what I'm saying. When you step into your idea, or when you step into your to you and what you want to do, a whole different community opens up to support you.
Yeah.
And then you're encouraged on, and they might not be the same people that you thought would. They might, and that's one big lesson I have learned, I think. They're not necessarily your family. They're not necessarily your best friends. You have to step away and just embrace the opportunities that come, because you will attract support. You will attract a community that will help you forward and propel forward.
Yeah. And
to be very open and open-minded by that. And I think that's where my little O came from.
Yeah.
And it's about that reminder that life is full of possibilities, and you've got to embrace them and know that they are going to bring you to the next stage.
Yes, 100%.
Aren't they? Yeah.
When you spoke about imagination there, I have worked with some women and men who don't know how they can tap into the imagination or into their creativity. They really struggle with that. I believe that our authenticity can be found in our creativity, because I believe it's such a unique expression. It takes on such a unique form. And as such a creative yourself, what advice would you give to someone who's struggling trying to find out what that is? How can they tap into their imagination more?
I think it's about freeing your mind. With the busy schedule I have, I don't necessarily live in my imagination. I have to nourish it.
Okay.
And what that means is that you actually have to step out of noise. And that means living and being in that moment and letting your mind wander. Now that takes a little bit of doing. I was trying to work with mindfulness and all that people say, it's, you know, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. I find it extraordinarily difficult, but I am trying to practice it. Yes, I am a creative and that's my world, but I also have to nourish it because it doesn't come easily, because I'm distracted all the time. I have so many other chores and errands to do. I have to manage. I'm a mom. I have to do everything like everybody else. So imagining is really, all it is stepping out of the noise and just imagining, letting your mind go. As simple as that. And you can, on a Sunday, I think it's a lovely thing to do, is just sit somewhere that's peaceful for you and imagine even what you want to be. Whether that is being a better you, whether that's like, how can I be happier in me? That's imagining. It's not about imagining a picture or imagining a piece of design work. It's about imagining you happy. I think that's the way I would see it.
I think that's brilliant. Nourishing your imagination, but at the same time also understanding that we don't always have to be in it.
No.
That it is something that we need to practice.
Yeah, we do need to practice. Very much so. And it was a wonderful man who I met at a train station. He's the father of a young boy who's in my son's class. He arrived like a tornado, and an incredibly grounded man, and has done so many things. He was a doctor. He studied, endless amounts of years in all sorts of disciplines. And his first question to me, he said, "What has escalated in the last 15 years?" And I looked at him and I said, "Goodness." And he goes, "Media." And I said, "Of course, media." And he said, "That is noise. And it has taken over all of our lives." So we're talking about phones, we're talking about TV, we're talking about radio. And he said it is the biggest addiction we have and we are facing.
Yeah.
And he said that is what the poison is. And we must learn to step out of it, because it is an amazing tool and we can use it to our advantage and it informs us, but we must learn to turn it off. And I am like everybody else. I've got the phone, I've got the Instagram, I've got all the tools that are demanded of you, and especially as a creative. But he reminded me there and then, that's the noise. And if you live in the noise, how are you supposed to be you?
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
It is such a distraction, and it takes us away from. It takes us away from our authenticity, because we become confused by everyone else's standards and expectations, dreams and goals, and we sometimes think that we need to be their version of success.
Absolutely.
We sometimes feel like we need to aspire to someone else's, and we become completely disconnected from what it is that we want.
Completely. And I think that's the real issue now, that the young girls are, it's wonderful if they're picking it up in a positive context, but certainly if the way social media and media is impacting our lives, it's incredibly dangerous for young girls.
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's where, this is where I think BYOS comes in also, because it is about asking you to be you. And interesting enough, the millennials, who are a big part of our world, they want care. They like to think that they're connected to care. So it's very interesting. They've got this, this mad, impactful world, filling them with all sorts of nonsense in the social media and all those different avenues. And then you've got this other part of them that want authenticity. So it's it'll be interesting to see.
It is a tense conflict.
It is a tense conflict.
And I think especially for young girls growing up who crave authenticity but also just want to feel like they belong as well, it can be quite difficult. It's a difficult path to navigate. But
really
it can be done.
Of course it can. And it's about just knowing that that's a tool and they've got to use it in a correct way. But it's very, very important that they understand who they are more so than ever, I think. I think, and I don't mean to be the older girl,
No,
I don't mean that at all. I'm talking to myself too.
No, and when I say it, I talk to myself as well. I think it's incredibly important to be able to step away from that noise and to understand, well, who am I at the end of the day, and what do I want? What are my own needs and desires, and how can I honour that? And how can I be true to that? I was able to reflect on my journey and go, it all makes sense now, but unfortunately when you're in it, sometimes it doesn't make sense.
But you've got to say that as well. It's like she doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But we don't have that language. You see, we don't know it. We're not taught that language. We're not taught anything to do with that language. So you're left with these massive gaps in your head and in you. And I think certainly nowadays, everything's in constant change. Everything's in constant flux. And you can be absolutely assured that your life will always be in constant change. So I think it's about learning that language. So that you're not going to be in that hard space all the time. You can talk, you can share, you can self-talk and just say, yeah, okay, I own it. I'm having a really difficult time here. I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost. And I think even owning that is fantastic. I certainly didn't know how to do it. When I knew when I had to accept that I had made, whether it was an error, whether it was a bad judgment, or whatever I had made, and it had brought and it had replicated now into my professional life, my economic life, my personal life, my everything. I was horrified at myself, but I didn't have the language to cope with it. I didn't have the language to say, okay, this is what's happened to you. I hid. I stayed. I stayed in my shell. I naturally enough, I sought help. I had to seek help, and I just needed people to actually give me that language, because I certainly didn't know it. I was coming from a fashion. I mean, there's nothing like fashion is certainly not deep and meaningful. So it was really interesting learning all these tools as I went through. And of course, that's, when you say, well, you're sharing it now, and I said, yeah, well, you have to share it because there's such a gap. And if you can share it, I think you're going to help and you're going to support, and it's going to help people on their journey.
What's been one of the best things that's happened on your journey so far? One of the greatest accomplishments or the greatest successes?
There's markers in your business side that, like when my first bar was gifted to Michelle Obama. So going back to that, it was a time when I was incredibly low. So when I called the Taoiseach and told him that I had a very special gift for a woman who I absolutely thought so highly of, for her colour, for her belief system, for her strength, for being a mom, for everything. I just thought what they had done. I'm not a politician, but I thought it was an extraordinary leap for the world. And I just said, would you think about giving this to her, because I think she is to be she's to be commended and she's to be celebrated. And they couldn't have thought of something more beautiful, and they said absolutely yes, and we'll have to call protocol. And they got all excited, and I couldn't say it to anybody because I knew protocol is protocol. And so for me, that was a milestone, and that for me was yes, it's understood. And from that moment, I said, wow, I'm going to step out of me, and I'm going to go on this journey. I didn't know what that journey was, but I knew that this something was inviting me to become something else. And so those sort of milestones, those little opportunities, really are my markers in my business, and the new and what's informed BYOS. And then on the personal, which is still playing catch up, I suppose it's taking that moment on a beach or or walking with myself and going, you are becoming you. And that for me is the most powerful at the moment, and I totally forget to do it. And I totally forget about me because I'm so busy being other people and trying to encourage my son, and being a very, very busy mom of one, as a single parent. I totally forget about me all the time. And I think that's why I have to take that time out and go into that space and being honest. And it's so important. And then my reminders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing on this show. You have inspired a lot of people, me, to keep pursuing my dream. I work with a lot of women, either in events or one-to-one, and quite often I will open it with saying, don't ever tell me that dreams don't exist, because you're standing in mine. And you have reminded me to keep going and to keep pushing. So thank you very much.
Listen, well done on what you are achieving and what you're sharing with all of us. It's so important for us to dream.
Yeah.
It's so important for us to let go. And it's so important to be in the pursuit of your own happiness. And I think that's what the whole BYOS philosophy is about. Self-belief. Is about connecting with your strength, which is the ultimate starting point, and knowing that it's there, embracing those opportunities, and finding the balance, because that's also another big part of us, is finding that balance and really sharing love and compassion and doing what you love. And I think then all of this is in pursuit of happiness, and happiness is the ultimate goal of being your own success, I think.
And it's the ultimate goal for so many people as well.
It is the ultimate goal.
It's what we all want it's what we all want in life, and it's very affirming to know that it is an inside job, as you refer to. It is something that comes from within, something that you work on from within, and something that you can ultimately define for yourself.
It is, and it's incredibly important. And us girls have it all, but we do very much beat ourselves up, and our lack of confidence is quite extraordinary, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying boys don't suffer from it. We're just very different, and we're vulnerable in that area. It's very personal, so we don't necessarily talk about it. But I think confidence is absolutely our issue.
Yeah.
And if we can support each other, we can certainly redefine things for ourselves and make it into a much better place. So thank you. I've really enjoyed being here today.
Thank you. If people would like to find out more information about you and be your own success, the best place is probably the website.
Yeah, we've just launched the first part of our website. So it's bys.melissacurry.com. And they're welcome to share their story with us. That is part of the brand. It's Be Your Own Success, but it is #share your story. So they can email us, and we have an active blog, and we have an active Instagram, and it is about sharing your story as you know yourself.
Okay. For any of my clients watching this, get your story in there.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're on Instagram as well, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was your...
My Instagram handle is BYOS by Melissa Curry.
Okay. And follow on Instagram as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.